Hi, Alan Stratton from Woodturns. Where do I find ideas for wood turning? Where? Well, almost anywhere. In this case, I have a 3D printer now, and I found this little ghost on Thingiverse. It has a magnet on a base and another magnet on a base here, and then once you put it all together, it's kind of a bouncy, floaty ghost floating off in the air. Well, I'm not sure I want to turn a ghost, but for Christmas and the Christmas Ornament Challenge, I can certainly try to adapt that same concept to a Christmas tree. In this case, then, I have a base, I have a small thing with a magnet glued on the top of it, another centerpiece which has another magnet on it, which they are in repelling mode, which, by the way, is a trick I'll explain how to do later, and then a tree on top of that. So this has the same sort of bounce as the ghost, and more appropriate for the Christmas Ornament Challenge than the ghost. But another thing that was essential for this were my jam chucks. I use a threaded wood faceplate for it, and 3 different sizes at this point. For this one was quite a large one, but I had to turn it down to 3/4 inch, which is no problem. I'll use it as 3/4 inch or smaller from here on out, and then when it gets too small, I'll simply glue on another piece of wood and start over again. 2020 has been a tough year with the COVID and all of its impacts. But may I encourage you to, instead of thinking of the bad things that have happened this year, think of all the blessings that we still enjoy and give thanks for those blessings. So 2 of those things for me are, 1, I can create beautiful things in my shop, and number 2 is I can host the Christmas Ornament Challenge, which I'm grateful for the response so far. It's still open for yours, so get yours in by November 30 and add to the spirit of Christmas and the spirit of giving thanks. So let's turn this tree, floating and levitating. There are 4 parts to this levitating tree: a base, a small trunk, a large trunk, and the foliage. The small trunk is simply a short piece of 3/8 inch dowel about 2 inches long. It will have a magnet glued to the top, so now I am starting with the large trunk, which is the most technical part of the tree. It is a dowel that I've turned down to about 5/8, but most importantly, I will drill a 1/2 inch hole through almost all of it. So for now, I will drill to about 3/4 from the opposite end, then sand just a little and apply shellac friction polish as a finish. Next, the tricky part. I need to hollow this end to fit the magnet, leaving only about 1/8 of an inch or less between the opposite hole and this end. In effect, I only need a ledge for the magnet to be glued onto. I start with a drill, then a parting tool, and even a skew. Finally, a point tool. I cannot recommend any of these tools. I apply a little finish to be consistent with the other end. Meanwhile, I glued a magnet to the end of this small trunk. I tried CA glue, but it came off. I tried epoxy, but the magnet came off. Finally, I cleaned the magnet with lacquer thinner and used epoxy again. It stuck. Hot melt may have worked just as well. My point to remember is to clean the magnet first. Now back at the lathe for the tree foliage. I have a piece of plum mounted between centers to round and cut a tenon. I have oriented the wood so that the lighter sapwood will be towards the top of the tree. Now that I have wood in the chuck, I need a hole that will be a loose fit to the large trunk. I made the large trunk a little long, planning to sand it to fit at the end. But this hole cannot change and must be deep enough. I guess a little over 2.5 inches. Next, I need a jam chuck. I have one on a threaded wood faceplate, but it is a little big. No problem, I will trim it down to fit. After a couple of uses, I can always glue on a fresh tenon when it is required. It is wood, after all, so now I will fit a tenon to the hole in the foliage wood. This is a long piece to fit, and I do want it as long as the hole is deep to prevent any wobble and as much slippage as possible. Now that it fits, I can shape the foliage. The wood is almost burl-type figure, so the grain is a bit wild. I decided to keep it simple with a series of V-grooves up the tree. One thing I have to watch out for: that large trunk comes up the tree quite a way. I need to keep the inside smaller than the outside, at least that far. I also need the foliage to be light enough for the magnet to repel the weight. How much weight can it take? I don't know. I've never done this before. This is guess and by gosh territory. I also decide not to sand the foliage. Who says it must be smooth and shiny? I will only oil it with some walnut oil when it is finished. For the base, I find a small piece of plum bark edge and drill a hole to receive the small trunk. Confession: I drilled it too big and had to make a reducer. That's okay, it helps lift the tree above the ground. The super tricky part is how to glue the second magnet to the top of the large trunk with the correct orientation. These magnets are not marked with polarity. After messing this up with the 3D ghosts, I learned a trick. 1. Glue the magnet on the small trunk first, then let it set. Then put the set magnet on the first while I glue the opposite side to the large trunk. Voila! The correct polarity is achieved. In the end, I added one more magnet to each previous magnet to increase the strength. No glue required for the second magnets. And my levitating or floating swaying tree is finished. It's kind of fun to bounce it. My granddaughters like it, and I like it. I will add it to the Christmas Ornament Challenge. There's still time to get your favorite ornaments in before November 30th. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe on my website, and tell your friends. I appreciate your comments and questions. Every week I make a new woodturning video and add it to my website. As usual, I appeal for you to wear your full face shield for safety anytime the lathe is running. I will see you next week with another woodturning video. Be wise in these COVID times. Count your blessings and stay healthy.